if everything that you're telling me right now is true, there are people who should be in prison, right? But because they're not being prosecuted right now, are you ever afraid that you're going to get back into a legal battle and be sued for, for libel or anything like that?
Well, you can't be sued for telling the truth. And I've learned the hardest lesson that anyone could possibly learn, and that means with my particular charge, I have to back things up. So from here on out, especially when I'm in front of a camera, anything that I say is backed up by evidence. Even trying to speak with you before we did this interview and telling you, even my manager, and providing evidence for you and things that, you have access to now. Everything that I say can be backed up. And that's so important for me. And now, moving forward, if I say something, it means it can be thoroughly backed up. So I'm not afraid. And in fact, it would be pretty incredible to have him in a courtroom, because he'd have to answer to what he did to my body. And he would have to answer to some of the things that he said in his interrogation that just don't add up.
Right.
Like the injury to my nose, the way that he describes the injury to my nose, you can't physically replicate that. It's a complete out lie. And so if he were to, for example, try to litigate and bring me to court, I would get that opportunity to tell the truth, and I would get the opportunity to provide all the evidence that I have that concludes what I'm saying is accurate and true, and he can't.
Okay. And to be clear, you're not saying that what you pleaded guilty to, you're not going back on that at all. You feel good about the fact, I guess, essentially, that you pleaded guilty to lying to a federal agent. That's what it was, right? And mail fraud for accepting the help for what you went through. So that's not in question, right?
Well, I wanted to take accountability.
Yeah.
And so, when I decided to sign the plea agreement, I was instructed by my counsel that that was the best option for me. Because going in and seeking counsel, I told him that I wanted to take accountability. I was done lying. I didn't want to lie anymore. And in order to do that, that meant pleading guilty. And not pleading guilty and saying that I was innocent, that meant going to a very lengthy trial. And the trial would not be me versus James Reyes. It was Sherri Papini versus the United States federal government. It's quite intimidating. And I wouldn't get a trial where it would be me versus James, for example, where I could provide all of this evidence that would show that there was culpability on his behalf, that would demonstrate that there was no consent. But that's not who I was up against. I'm up against the FBI, and we know how powerful the FBI is, and a trial would not only be lengthy, but it would completely drain me of my assets, it would completely drain me of my time, and at the very end, I still lied.